It was just dinner, she said. But deep down, I knew this was the beginning of something much bigger. I always believed we had the kind of marriage others envied. My wife, Laura, was everything to me. My best friend, my partner, my world. People always said we were the perfect couple, and I believed it too. For years, we shared laughter, love, and dreams of growing old together. But lately, things had started to feel different. I brushed it off at first. Relationships go through phases, right? Then one evening, as we were finishing dinner, she casually mentioned something that didn't sit right. "I'll be late tomorrow," she said, not meeting my eyes. "I have a dinner with a coworker." Her voice was light, almost dismissive, like she didn't think much of it. I wanted to trust her, of course I did. But something about the way she said it, the way she avoided my gaze, planted a seed of doubt in my mind. It wasn't like her to be so vague, so distant. I shrugged it off, telling myself I was overthinking. But as I lay in bed that night, the thought kept gnawing at me. Was it really just dinner? Or was there something she wasn't telling me? The next day, Laura left for her so-called dinner. I smiled and told her to have fun. But my gut twisted as I watched her walk out the door. Something wasn't right. I tried to brush it off. Maybe it really was just dinner with a coworker. But the unease wouldn't go away. That night, I noticed something strange. When Laura came back home, she didn't greet me like she usually did. She seemed distracted. Her phone buzzed as she set her purse down, and she picked it up immediately, smiling at the screen. She turned away slightly as she typed back, the way someone does when they don't want others to see. Over the next few days, more little things started adding up. Laura began dressing up more than usual for work. Tight-fitting outfits, a new shade of lipstick, even a faint spritz of perfume she hadn't worn in years. At home, she was glued to her phone, giggling at messages she wouldn't share. When I asked her what was so funny, she'd just shrug and say, "Oh, nothing. Work stuff." It didn't feel like nothing. The final straw came when she left her phone on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. I wasn't the type to snoop, but something told me to look. My hands trembled as I picked it up and saw the screen still lit with a text notification. "Last night was amazing. Can't wait for our next dinner." My heart sank. Last night, she had told me she was stuck in a late meeting. My mind raced as the pieces began to fit together. A simple message had just shattered my world. Couldn't let this go. That text was enough to confirm my suspicions, but I needed more than just words on a screen. I had to see it for myself. The next time Laura mentioned her dinner, I played it cool. I smiled, kissed her on the cheek, and told her to enjoy herself. But the moment she walked out the door, I grabbed my car keys and followed her. She drove across town to a trendy restaurant, the kind we used to go to on special occasions. I parked a safe distance away and watched as she stepped out of the car, looking radiant in a dress I hadn't seen her wear in years. My stomach churned. Then I saw him. A tall, confident man in a sharp suit walked up to her, and she lit up like a teenager meeting her first crush. They hugged, too closely for it to be professional, and he placed his hand on her lower back as he guided her inside. My chest tightened as I watched them laugh and flirt through the restaurant's glass windows, their heads leaning in close like they were sharing secrets meant for only them. It was undeniable. This wasn't just dinner. This was betrayal. But I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed to be smart about this. If I went in guns blazing, I'd be the one looking irrational. No, I wanted her to feel the full weight of her actions. She thought she was so clever that I'd never notice. That night, as Laura came home smiling like nothing had happened, I realized something. Confronting her now wouldn't be enough. She needed to face the consequences, to understand the depth of her betrayal. I decided to play the long game. The first step was gathering evidence. I hired a private investigator, a discreet professional who specialized in uncovering affairs. Within days, I had a folder full of photos and documents. Pictures of Laura holding hands with that man, sharing intimate looks, and leaving restaurants together. Copies of text messages exchanged between them. Even their hotel booking receipts. But I didn't stop there. I started acting like the perfect husband, kind, attentive, and completely unsuspecting. I wanted her to feel secure, to believe she had me fooled. Meanwhile, I began preparing for what I knew was coming. I met with a lawyer and made arrangements to protect my finances and property. Then I set the trap. One evening, I casually told her, "Hey, let's have a special dinner next weekend. Just the two of us. It's been a while since we've had some quality time." Her reaction was almost laughable. She hesitated, her face betraying a flicker of panic, before quickly agreeing. What she didn't know was that I had planned the dinner to coincide with one of her secret meetups. I sent her an anonymous text the day before. "I know everything. Let's see how you explain yourself." I watched her read the message, her face going pale, her hands trembling as she tried to act normal. She had no idea the storm that was about to hit her. I wasn't just exposing her lies. I was about to destroy the fantasy world she thought she could live in. The night of our dinner arrived, and Laura looked stunning. She wore the same dress she had worn for one of her dinners, and I couldn't help but wonder if it was for me or if she was trying to hide her guilt. Either way, I kept my composure. We arrived at the restaurant I had picked, our favorite spot, where we'd celebrated anniversaries and milestones. The irony wasn't lost on me. The setting was perfect for what was about to unfold. As we sat down, I pretended everything was normal. I ordered wine, smiled at her, and even cracked a few jokes. She laughed nervously, her eyes darting around the room. She was uneasy, and I could tell she was still shaken from the anonymous text I had sent. Halfway through the meal, I slid an envelope across the table. "What's this?" she asked, her voice trembling slightly. "Open it," I said, keeping my tone calm but firm. Her fingers shook as she opened the envelope and pulled out its contents. Photos of her with the other man, their text messages, and even the hotel receipts. Her face went pale, and she stared at me, unable to speak. "Still think it's just dinner?" I asked, my voice steady despite the storm raging inside me. Tears welled up in her eyes as she stammered, "It's not what it looks like. I can explain." "Explain what, Laura?" I cut her off, my voice rising for the first time. "That you've been lying to me? That you've been sneaking around behind my back? I trusted you, and this is how you repay me." People at nearby tables began to glance over, but I didn't care. This moment wasn't about saving face. It was about exposing the truth. She begged, cried, and tried to grab my hand, but I pulled away. Her excuses were hollow, her tears meaningless. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," I said coldly. "You'll be hearing from them soon. Enjoy the life you've chosen, Laura, because it doesn't include me." I stood up, leaving her sitting there, humiliated and defeated. As I walked out of the restaurant, I felt an overwhelming sense of relief. Just as I stepped outside, her phone buzzed with a message from her coworker. I couldn't help but glance back and smirk as she read it. From her expression, I could tell it wasn't what she wanted to see. The message read, "This isn't going to work anymore. Good luck." After walking out of the restaurant, I didn't look back. I was done being the fool in her story. But for Laura, the fallout had just begun. Over the next few days, I finalized the divorce papers and had them delivered to her at work. According to my lawyer, she was served in front of her coworkers, the very people she had claimed to be spending late nights with. Her humiliation was public, and it hit her hard. That wasn't the only consequence she faced. Word spread quickly, and her precious reputation began to crumble. The man she had been seeing, the charming coworker she risked everything for, ghosted her entirely. He blocked her on every platform, leaving her to face the wreckage alone. Meanwhile, I focused on rebuilding my life. I moved out of the house and into a new apartment, one that felt like a fresh start. My friends and family rallied around me, offering support and encouragement. For the first time in months, I felt free. But Laura wasn't done trying to fix what she had broken. She showed up at my apartment one evening, her face streaked with tears, begging for another chance. "I made a mistake," she sobbed. "I was stupid, and I let my selfishness ruin everything. Please, we can fix this. I'll do whatever it takes." Her words sounded desperate, but I had already made my decision. I looked her in the eye and said, "Laura, I loved you with everything I had, But you destroyed that love when you chose to betray me. Some things can't be undone. She broke down completely, crying on my doorstep as I closed the door behind me. It was harsh, but it was necessary. She needed to feel the consequences of her actions. Days later, I received an unexpected email. It was from Laura's coworker, the man she had cheated with. His message was simple. Asterisk, thank you for showing me who she really is before it was too late. With Laura out of my life, I focused on rebuilding myself. At first, it was difficult. Untangling the memories, the plans we had made, and the life we had built together. But every day I felt a little stronger. I poured my energy into things I had neglected for years. I took up running again, something I had once loved but abandoned as our relationship grew strained. I reconnected with old friends, those who had always been there for me, even when I was too blind to see their worth. One day, as I was jogging through the park, I stopped to catch my breath near a lake. A little boy was flying a kite, laughing as it danced in the wind. His joy was infectious, and for the first time in what felt like forever, I smiled a real, genuine smile. That's when it hit me. I wasn't broken anymore. Laura's betrayal had been painful, but it had also been a wake-up call. It taught me to value myself, to set boundaries, and to never settle for less than I deserved. Months later, I found myself in a much better place. My career flourished, my friendships deepened, and I even started dating again. Slowly, cautiously, but with hope. Laura, on the other hand, had faded into the background. I heard through mutual friends that she regretted everything and was struggling to piece her life together. But that wasn't my concern anymore. She made her choices and I had moved on. The experience didn't just teach me about betrayal, it taught me about resilience. Sometimes, life falls apart so we can rebuild it into something stronger. Have you ever experienced a moment in life where betrayal or heartbreak taught you something important about yourself? How did you handle it? Share your story in the comments. I'd love to hear how you overcame it. And if you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for more stories like this one.